Okay. So are you ready for this? This deep dive today is going to be a wild one. Elon Musk, the U.S. Treasury, and a whole lot of controversy. It all revolves around this Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, that Musk is in charge of under President Trump.
Yeah, it's certainly turning some heads.
That's for sure. So we've seen tons of headlines about it, and you've probably sent us some of the articles and FAQs. They're all over the internet right now.
Right.
Our mission today is to sort through all of that and try to answer some big questions like, why is this such a big deal? What are the risks? What does it all mean for you?
It's definitely a situation that, raises a lot of questions. I mean, we're talking about an unelected billionaire and his team basically being given the keys to the country's finances.
Yeah, that's a kind of scary thought, but I got to admit, I'm a little lost on the specifics. Can you break it down for us? What exactly is this federal payment system, and why is it so crucial?
Well, you can think of it like the plumbing of the entire U.S. government. Every single dollar the government spends flows through the system. Everything from Social Security checks to Medicare reimbursements to, well, even my salary.
Wow.
It's the lifeblood of the nation's finances. And it's usually handled by, seasoned career civil servants.
People who've been doing this for years.
People who've dedicated their lives to making sure that money goes where it needs to go safely and securely.
So handing control of this system over to Musk's DOGE it's kind of a big gamble, isn't it? Especially since he's out there claiming that these career Treasury officials are breaking the law every hour of every day by approving what he calls fraudulent payments. I mean, those are pretty serious accusations to make. What do you think about that?
It's certainly a bold statement, and one that a lot of people are questioning, because so far there hasn't been any evidence presented to back up those claims.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty big red flag to me.
And it makes you wonder, is this really about efficiency? Or is it about, undermining trust in these institutions? Because let's not forget, the system is already subject to, very strict oversight and auditing.
Right, so it's not exactly a free-for-all.
Exactly.
And then there's the case of David Librick, the guy who was running the payment system before DOGE took over.
Right.
He got pushed out, didn't he, for refusing to give them access?
Yeah. Librick, a career civil servant with, years of experience, was reportedly placed on leave after he resisted DOGE, and then he just abruptly resigned.
Wow.
This kind of thing just doesn't happen in government, especially in such a sensitive position.
Okay, but to be fair, isn't it possible that Musk has put together, like a super team, a group of absolute experts to handle all of this?
It's possible, but the question is, who are these people?
Right. What do we actually know about them?
Well, this is where things get even more interesting. According to reports, Musk has installed several young surrogates, some as young as 19, in key positions within DOGE, including at the Treasury.
Hold on, 19-year-old. Seriously. I mean, I remember being 19, and let me tell you, the biggest financial decision I made back then was, whether or not to get that extra guacamole with my burrito.
Laugh softly.
Imagine someone that age having their hands on, the nation's checkbook. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and there's very little transparency about their qualifications. What experience do they have managing such a complex system? It's a big question mark.
Okay, so to recap, we've got potential conflicts of interest, a serious lack of transparency, and a team that sounds like they just graduated high school. Am I missing anything?
Well, you could add to that a whole lot of unanswered questions about what exactly they're planning to do.
Right. What's the worst that could happen here?
Well, Senators Warren and Wyden have both voiced concerns about DOGE, potentially being used for political purposes.
Right.
They're warning that this could have disastrous consequences for the economy, even increase the risk of a U.S. debt default.
A debt default? How could that even happen?
Yeah. There are a few scenarios. Imagine DOGE deciding to, block payments to programs they disagree with, even if those programs have been approved by Congress. Or maybe they start manipulating data, to favor certain groups or individuals.
Oh, wow.
Or, and this is a big one, what if they accidentally trigger a system failure simply because they don't have the experience to handle such a complex beast?
Right. They could really mess things up without even meaning to.
Exactly.
Okay, this is getting scary. So it's not just about political interference. It's also about the potential for, plain old incompetence.
Precisely. It's like giving someone the keys to a nuclear power plant when they've, only ever changed a light bulb.
Oh, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. The potential for catastrophe is very real.
Okay. I'm officially freaking out now. But before we go any further, we should point out that those DOGE representatives did pass background checks and got the necessary security clearances, right?
That's true. And so far, there haven't been any reports of them actually blocking payments or misusing data.
Okay, that's something.
But the potential is still there. And that's what has a lot of people worried.
Yeah, it's kind of a waiting game at this point. And in the meantime, we're all just kind of holding our breath.
And we haven't even touched on the whole data privacy issue yet.
Oh, right. This system has incredibly sensitive information about millions of Americans. Social security numbers, bank account details, tax records, it's all in there. What happens to all that data now that DOGE has access?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We know that data could be incredibly valuable for all sorts of things. Targeted political campaigns, manipulating economic decisions, or even personal gain.
It's almost too much power for one group to have, especially when there's so little transparency.
Exactly. It's a big concern.
However, back, and I gotta say, I'm still pretty uneasy about this whole DOGE thing, this idea that Musk is all about making the government more efficient. I mean, what does that even mean when we're talking about something as complex as the federal payment system?
Yeah, it's a good question. Efficiency can mean a lot of different things.
Exactly. It's such a vague term, and honestly, that vagueness kind of makes me nervous, because it leaves so much room for interpretation. Like, what does it even mean to root out waste and fraud in this context? Could that mean delaying or even stopping payments to certain groups, people who rely on those payments?
That's the problem with these broad statements. They sound good in theory, but in practice, it's really hard to know where to draw the line.
Right. And let's not forget, this payment system already has a ton of oversight. There are audits, investigations, all sorts of legal safeguards in place. It's not like they're just handing out money willy-nilly.
Right. It's a pretty tightly controlled system.
Okay, so maybe I'm being too pessimistic. Maybe these young tech geniuses that Musk has put in charge actually know what they're doing. What do you think? Is there a chance they're seeing things that we're just, too old to understand?
Well, it is possible. I mean, they did pass those.
So they're not just random kids off the street.
Yeah. Right. But even if they are brilliant coders, managing a system like this takes more than just technical skills.
Yeah, you need experience, right?
Exactly. You need experience. You need institutional knowledge. And you definitely need an understanding of the potential consequences of every decision you make. It's a huge responsibility.
Okay, so let's say, and I really hate to go here, but let's say this does go wrong.
Yeah.
What can we do about it? I mean, Congress and the president are supposed to be overseeing DOGE, right?
Yeah.
Are they doing enough to make sure this doesn't completely blow up in our faces?
Well, some members of Congress are certainly trying to get answers. Senator Warren and Senator Wyden have been very vocal about their concerns.
That's good to hear.
They're demanding more transparency from the Treasury Secretary. They want to know more about DOGE's access, the qualifications of Musk's team, what safeguards are in place to protect our data.
Okay, good. Because honestly, I feel like this story could easily get lost in the news cycle. It's complicated, it's kind of boring to think about, but the truth is, this could have a huge impact on, well, everyone.
Absolutely. It's not just some political game. We're talking about the stability of our government, the integrity of our financial system, even the privacy of our own personal data. It affects all of us.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you put it like that.
It is a bit daunting, but it's important to remember that we're not powerless in this situation.
Okay, so what can we do? What can our listeners do to feel a little less, helpless?
Well, the first thing is don't ignore it. Don't just tune it out because it seems too complicated or too overwhelming. Stay informed. Read about it. Talk to your friends and family about it.
Right. The more people understand what's happening, the better.
Exactly. And if you're concerned, reach out to your elected officials. Let them know how you feel because they work for U.S.
Right. They need to hear from us.
Exactly. Demand transparency. Ask the tough questions. Don't let them sweep this under the rug.
All right. I like that. Knowledge is power. And in this case, it might be the only thing that can save us from, a complete financial meltdown.
I think that's a good place to leave it for now. We've covered a lot of ground today, but I have a feeling this story is far from over.
Yeah, definitely not. But for now, let's take a deep breath. And we'll be back soon to wrap up this deep dive and hopefully leave you with some concrete steps you can take to make a difference. All right, so we're back, and man, this DOGE Treasury situation, it's a lot to process. It's like we've been on this crazy train ride through the world of government finance, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get off.
I hear you. It's definitely been a wild ride.
So before we wrap this up, can we just take a minute to recap? Like, what are the key takeaways from all of this?
Yeah, for sure. So the big thing is this unelected entity, Musk's DOGE, they now have this unprecedented level of access to the Treasury's payment system.
Right. And let's be real, they kind of strong-armed their way in.
Yeah, they definitely ruffled some feathers along the way.
And then there's the whole issue of the people Musk has put in charge, right? I mean, some of them they're barely old enough to vote, let alone manage trillions of dollars.
That's a valid concern. The lack of experience is, it's definitely a red flag.
Yeah, and that lack of experience could lead to some pretty serious consequences, right? Whether it's intentional or just accidental. I mean, they could really mess things up.
Absolutely. And we also have to consider the potential for misuse of all that sensitive data they now have access to.
Right. Social security numbers, bank accounts, tax records. It's all just sitting there.
It's a lot of power for one group to have.
So where does this leave us? And more importantly, where does it leave our listeners? What can people do if they're feeling as uneasy about this as we are?
Well, first of all, don't just tune it out because it's scary or complicated. Stay informed. Keep reading about it. Talk to your friends and family.
Right, because the more people understand what's going on, the better, right?
Exactly. And if you're really concerned, reach out to your elected officials. Let them know that you're paying attention and that you expect them to hold DOGE accountable.
Yeah, because in the end, they work for us.
Exactly. So make your voice heard.
Okay, I like that. Don't be silent, right?
Yeah.
Speak up. Make some noise.
Exactly. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say.
That's right.
Right.
Well, we started this deep dive with a lot of questions, and honestly, we still have a lot of questions. But I hope we've given you the tools and the knowledge you need to understand what's at stake here.
I think so, and I hope we've inspired some of you to take action.
Yeah, me too. Because this is bigger than just, Elon Musk or DOGE. It's about the future of our government, our economy, our country. And it's a future we all have a stake in shaping.
Well said.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay vigilant.